Well, hello everyone, and welcome to 30 Minutes of Wisdom. I'm your host, Robin Blank Mascari, and we come together twice a month, the second and fourth Friday, to share wonderful resources from great thought leaders to support you in your personal and professional development. And I love to quote Jim Rohn, as most of you know, he says, work twice as hard on yourself as you do on your business because you are your business. So this morning we have or whenever you're watching, we have a guest that's going to make a huge difference in your business because we are professional storytellers. And the more you tell your story and the greater the quality of your story, the more money you make. It's a direct relationship. So we thought that, educating all of us on how to tell our stories, craft our stories with intention can make a huge difference in your personal and professional effectiveness. Last time we had someone as Sabine who showed us how to, look good on camera and be a pro. Now we have a professional storyteller. And this woman, when I first heard her bio, I was blown away because I had no idea she had the accomplishments that she has. And she comes to us, she's from San Diego, and she comes to us with, she's an award-winning storyteller from in front and behind the camera on network television programs in San Diego, has 16 Emmy Awards, 16. She is a pro and she helps educate people on how to use this amazing medium called storytelling. She has more than 30 years experience as a journalist, storyteller, and writer. She's ghostwritten books and written online magazines, websites, PR agencies, social media, and blogs. And as a journalist, she worked in TV for affiliates of NBC, CBS, ABC, as well as Cox. And she's got a passion for creating copy that just, along with videos that deliver the most effective message to whoever your targeted audience is. And her specialties are targeted in writing, video storytelling, and media coaching. And when I met her, I was blown away, like I said. And the more I get to know her, the better it gets, because I personally hired her to help me with my bio recently. And she was very, very supportive to me when I was getting my headshot done and all kinds of things, because that's not something most of us do. But as we step up in the world and are online so much, the way we come across is really important. So I want to introduce Jeanne Rawdin to everyone. And Jeannie's going to take us through a presentation to share about storytelling, epicstorytelling.com. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, Jeanne.
Hi, Robin. How are you? It's great to
I'm
be here.
great. I'm so glad we talked about this so long ago. I
I
mean,
know.
it's finally happening. So
Yes.
I'm
Yay.
huh?
Yay. Yeah.
Yay, it's right. So I'm gonna get off screen because you've got a presentation and I'm gonna let you run with it. And then are you open after our 30 minutes to answer any questions?
Absolutely. Yeah. And if our viewers want to have any questions that they want to put in the chat room as it's going through, maybe we could collect all those at the end and I can address them.
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. So I hope everyone heard that. If you have questions, put them in the chat. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Jeannie. Take it away.
Okay. Will do. Okay. So let me share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
The power of storytelling. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So great. So I wanted to start out really just by kind of asking a duh question, but what is storytelling, right? Why is that so important to storytell? And really, it's to deliver a message about who you are and what makes you unique. And even though you're delivering that unique message, what you're actually doing is you're connecting to the common universal qualities in all of us. And that's the magic of storytelling. And that's why it's really important to share personal stories that others can relate to. And it helps to be authentic, because when you're authentic, it resonates with other people. They can really connect to your life experiences, because we all deal with the same emotions. All of us go through many similar experiences in our journeys. And so to be authentic, people then want to know more about you. So in a nutshell, it's a way to express why you do what you do. Okay, there we go. So again, why do we do it? Well, we learn lessons through parables and metaphors, right? This is really how we do learn. Think about the Bible, think about religious texts. They're all about storytelling. And it's because those stories really stick with us and we learn the lesson through the story, not by being just told a fact or a statistic. It gives us context, right, about where we fit in humanity. It's not just information. So I love this quote by Brene Brown. It's important to share our story in order to rediscover our voice. We can use our stories to lift us up. Again, because these stories are what really bring us to the other person in this realistic way. I'll give you an example. All of you are entrepreneurs, right? And I could say to you, I really have this entrepreneurial spirit. And that may resonate. You may pay attention to that. But if I tell you that when I was a kid, I would mow lawns every weekend for $5 a shot, or I opened up a bike shop in my grandmother's garage and fixed all the kids' bikes in the neighborhood for money, you would get a much better sense of how that entrepreneurial spirit started in me as a kid. And I use those examples because I think who we are, or who we were as kids can be really important in relating our stories, because that's when we were really being formed as human beings, and we can all relate to being a kid, right? And we all, still have that inner kid inside of us. Tony Robbins, again, this quote is great. What's your old story? What's your new story? What's your 2021 story? And I include this quote because, our stories are always changing, right? We do have our stories about childhood and where we came from and our families, but it's also important to keep our stories updated and not just keep telling the same stories, because of course this is a work in progress, right? We're on a journey. We're on a journey with our prospective members of our teams. We're on a journey with the members we already have on our teams. And so we always want to be updating that, refreshing that in the context of the times we're living in, right? COVID, for example, really changed our stories dramatically in many, many ways. 2021 is offering new hope in so many different ways. And so those are all new stories, how our lives are being changed, and those are all worth sharing. So how do you do it? There are many, many ways. Email campaigns, social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, your website, doing webinars. These are all ways to deliver those stories to your team or to prospects. They don't have to be long sagas. That's another thing. They can just be vignettes, something that happened to you yesterday that reminded you of, what you did, reminded you of a struggle you went through, or a victory that happened when you were in your teenage years or in your 20s or something. It's all kind of, looking around the world and being observant and seeing what comes to mind. And what Robin was talking about working on yourself, that really is important in storytelling, right? Because if you're paying attention to that inner voice, those stories are just going to present themselves. They're going to surface. And then you have that wonderful vignette to be able to share with your team members or with prospects. You can create short videos. I know some of you are probably better, and some of you might feel a little bit challenged when it comes to making videos. I know videos can be very daunting, but they are very important, I think, because face-to-face communication and photos, even any kind of visuals, really bring that story home much more powerfully. And it is about weaving together a narrative, as I was just talking about. You could be walking down the street, you noticed a rose bush, and that rose bush reminds you of your grandfather who owned, a farm and had wonderful plants all over his acreage, and it reminded you of something that your grandfather used to tell you. It's those weaving together just what the thought process has been, and then bringing it into words so that you can share that and share basically the nugget, the wonderful nugget or lesson at the end of that story. Painting a visual picture, really important. You want to include details and emotions. Those are the things that we relate to. You know, we don't relate to generalities. We don't relate to vague sentences. Um, you know, I work with a lot of real estate agents most recently, and I'll tell you a story. You know, I write their long bios, and I'm always interviewing them to ask about their backgrounds and their childhoods. And you know, a real estate agent recently said to me, "Well, I'm very open-hearted. You know, I work with my clients in an open-hearted way." And I said, "Well, you know, what does that mean? Give me an example." And she told me about this homeless couple that she met at an open house. They were living in a camper shell in someone's backyard. They got kicked out of there. They were living in someone's spare bedroom. They got kicked out of there, and they really had nowhere else to go. They were with the father of the wife who was there at the open house. And this real estate agent said, "Okay, I'm going to help you." And within a week, she had them, you know, in contract with the house. And within like a month and a half, they were living in the house. The escrow went through. They had some financial help from the dad. But I mean, how powerful is that story, right? I mean, going from just saying I'm an open-hearted agent to telling me that story, it really brings it home. And so you can see in that example the power of storytelling. So where do you start? You know, it's always a great idea to start with your roots, to always have that awareness of where you came from, what shaped you early on. You know, some of us have not really considered this, but as you get older, you can create a context around who you are by the experiences you've had, right? If you grew up in a big city, then you've experienced a lot of things that people who lived on a farm in the Midwest did not. So how those experiences shaped you is really important, and it's a really important element when you're telling a story. And it's good to look back at those formative years. You know, how were you as a teenager? What were you known as in high school? What did you study in college? You know, I just recently had a visit from one of my best friends in high school, you know, and as I'm sure many of you have experienced, you know, you get together with some of those people and you're right there again, right? Like there's no having to, you know, go through formalities. You can just kind of pick up where you ended off. And that's because those were formative years, right? People knew who you were and you're still that person. So it's really good to keep in touch with those memories and how you were perceived back then, because it's important today as an adult. And again, time markers are important because it does show your progress on this journey of life, right? And everyone has gone through this. So people can resonate with some of the experiences that you share that they can remember in their own lives. Like what made you stay in your hometown, or what made you move away? What was one of your biggest accomplishments as a young adult, or a career highlight or award that really, you know, had an impact on you? And the story behind how you got that, right? It's not that I won an Emmy. I love to tell the stories behind my Emmys if somebody asks me, because that's the important thing, how I got to that story, which I was then able to tell in an effective manner, where it was noticed. Some other aspects you might look into or think about is your community service, volunteering. Many of us are very drawn to volunteering or community service because we have a passion to help someone, right? Or we identify with a certain group of people. Those are really important stories. I once interviewed a guy who he ran a therapeutic horse farm. And again, this is another real estate agent, entrepreneur, and he wanted to tell me about how he just always was a giver, like he always wanted to give back to the community. And so he ran this therapeutic horse farm, which, what in and of itself is a great story. And then he went on to tell me about this one girl who would always come with the group, but she was in a wheelchair. And she was had such a physical condition that she had to be strapped into the wheelchair. And so she could only watch from the sidelines. Until one day, and this guy was, just so scared to ever try to put this girl on a horse because he was afraid she would get really injured. But one day they tried it, and she got on the horse. They got her up onto the horse, and she was able to stay on the horse. And she just got the biggest smile on her face as she went around that little corral on that horse. And I mean, this man never forgot it. He never forgot that smile. Now, what did I just do? I told you details. I told you details about that girl. I told you the details of her in the wheelchair with the straps. I told you about the smile. I told you about his fear. I gave you emotions and I gave you details, which made that story more powerful to you than just saying, oh, this guy was a giver. Turning points in your life, anything that really brings forward in you that sense of purpose and passion, those are all the most powerful stories that you can share. So as I was just saying, details really important, and look for those shared universal qualities. What are those? Fear, anxiety, joy, giving to others. These are all shared universal qualities, and these are really important elements of any good story. Challenges, very important, right? The hero's arc, you have a challenge. How did you overcome it? There may be 5 different ways you could have overcome it, right? You chose one way to do it. Maybe you failed the first time. Maybe you failed the second time. Maybe you failed 5 times. So what you tell that story, and what does that story say? That story tells me that you have perseverance, that you have persistence, that you learned from your mistakes. Again, powerful messages for any member of your team, excuse me, or any prospective member of your team, right? They want to know that, oh yeah, these people had a fear at one point too. They were afraid to start. They were afraid to grow. They were afraid to expand. Had anxiety about reaching out to others, being vulnerable. When you share those stories, and they resonate with others and give them courage to go and share their own. So that's what you're creating, a ripple effect, in essence, when you are involved in storytelling. So challenges, what made you stronger, right? And how you were vulnerable. Again, really powerful universal human qualities that we all feel and go through. And again, what makes it unique, right? We don't want to just go on and say, oh, this happened to me, it happens to everybody, I'm just like you. You want to point out what makes your story unique. There's still going to be a lot of similarities in there, but the uniqueness, we're all unique, and you all have unique stories. The uniqueness is what makes the story more interesting. So you want to include surprises, breaking points, desperate moments, revelations, right? It's kind of like that tension and release. Think about a rubber band that you're expanding and then releasing, expanding, releasing. That's what keeps people involved in your story, right? They want to hear what happened next because you brought them in to the context of your story. And the outcomes in reinvention. So this is how you tie it all together, right? So I'll tell you a story about a guy who worked at Nordstrom, right? He worked in the women's shoe department. And he had worked in departments all over the store, but that was the most challenging department of all of them. And he said, he'd have women come in there, they'd try on 30 pairs of shoes. and, take him like, an hour to get out all these shoes. And it was very frustrating for him, and he didn't have the patience for it. Until finally one day, he realized that if he became an active listener to these women when they sat down in the chair, that he could figure out what choices that they wanted to make in terms of getting the shoes that they wanted. So if he became that listener, he only had to bring out 5 pairs of shoes, and they would buy 3 of the pairs. And so he took that skill and translated that same skill into his entrepreneurial business when he became older and was successful in his business. And so that story is about being an active listener, but it's a wonderful vehicle to put you in a shoe department at Nordstrom to teach you that story, right? To show you that man in the context and what he learned about. Much more powerful way to tell you that I'm an active listener. So you need to frame your experience in relation to the outside world, right? Everyone can relate to being, not everyone, but a lot of us in America can relate to a Nordstrom, being in a shoe department. We can kind of picture that, right? So we have that outside world experience to bring us in to the quality that really matters, which in that case was the active listening. So these are just some phrases that might trigger, bring up for you elements of your story as you're trying to unfold it. When this happened, I knew that, or that you can sum it up. That experience taught me, my aha moment. I discovered my sense of purpose when. So these are all statements that really lead you to the outcome, right? Why did I tell you this story? Well, once this happened, I knew that, da-da-da-da-da. So you can really focus the story with these phrases that I've put here. And of course, there are dozens of others, but those are just great stories to use. I mean, great phrases to use. And I'll tell you a story about this woman, the last one. I discovered my sense of purpose when I recently helped a woman write her story. It was what we call a long form bio. And she started out by telling me she was in a car accident as a teenager. A drunk driver hit them head on, and her girlfriend died in the car accident. She did not, obviously. 2 other guys in the car did die, so she was the only survivor. And it was really hard for her. She had a lot of guilt, just a lot of sadness, felt like she should have been able to do something to save her friend's life. But then later on in life, she had the opportunity to adopt her niece, who had been living with her parents, who were both drug addicts. And she became proactive to get the niece out of that environment, and then eventually adopted her. So she discovered her sense of purpose when she found her niece and helped her. And it helped to allay all those feelings of guilt and anxiety she had had from her friend dying. So really, you could say the purpose of that story is that she survived this accident so that she could help someone else live, even though her own best friend died. Very powerful story, very powerful story. So specific to LifeWave, how can you use storytelling in LifeWave to grow your team, to reach out to prospects who may not know you very well? You can always start with the patches, right? How have they helped you and your family, health-wise, friends that you have? Those stories are endless, right? They're just endless. There are so many of them. And, that's just a great entree. And I know, you guys have probably all thought this already, right? You've already figured this out, but you can really elaborate on those stories and give the details and the emotions to make them stronger. Another one, of course, how the business fits into your life goals, right? You all became LifeWave distributors for a reason. It gave you freedom. It helped flexibility of your life. It helped with your financial freedom. So those are all wonderful stories that you can share. Very powerful, all of them. And also part of storytelling is to look at your prospects, right? And even your team members so that they remain loyal to the team. Get into their heads and their hearts. What makes them tick? What do they want? What are the problems they're trying to solve by becoming a LifeWave distributor? You need to nurture those wants and needs once you have identified them. And you can be empathic. You can communicate. Whatever specials or deals are going on within LifeWave, et cetera. But you really need to also tell those stories, right? Tell the stories that they're going to be able to relate to, because then they're going to feel like, you know what? I belong. I belong in this group. I feel heard. I feel supported. I want to stay. And I'm going to be more successful when I do stay because I have that sense of belonging. And that's what storytelling does. So the bottom line is really, you convey your struggles and your victories, both, right? Not one or the other, both, because we have them both all the time in our lives. We want to inspire, but we also want to help people resonate with those not so positive feelings, because maybe that's going to be the connector that's going to keep them there on your team or want to come back to be a prospect. And reveal the vulnerability. Again, this is so important. If you don't talk about your emotions and who you really are, no one's really going to care. They're just not going to connect to you if you kind of put yourself over there on that pedestal and say, oh, this is what you should do. And, oh, I have 20 years of experience and, and I know, I know about the products. Great. That's just the beginning. You really need to show your vulnerabilities so people see you as a human being. They don't just want to see you as a distributor. They want to see you as a human being. So you need to weave in those emotions and humor. Funny things happen to all of us. Put that in there too. Give people a laugh or a smile. That goes a very long way. And always be thinking of that common thread, right? The universal human qualities I was talking about before. What do we all go through in different ways? What are those things that we all can relate to? You should always be looking for that when you're thinking about storytelling and you're looking at your prospects or team members and what they're going through. So, yeah, to sum it all up, it is about giving, not getting, right? What you're doing when you're engaged in storytelling is you're helping others. You're giving them something. You're giving them a part of yourself because you're revealing something about you that's authentic, and people will connect to that. That is the point of connection. And think about what resonates with your greatest audience. Who are the people on your team? What do they have in common? Who are your prospects? What can you share with them that will bring them closer to you and feel like, you know what? I like that person. That person feels real to me. I want to work with that person. I want to be on their team. And I know Gregory has said this many times, share and care about others. That really is what it comes down to. That's what storytelling is about. You're sharing your personal stories that show that you're vulnerable, you're being authentic, and it shows that you care about others. And that's what is going to help your team members to stay with you, to be motivated, to grow, and to bring in others because they feel that sense of relationship with you. Because after all, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about building relationships with other people. It's not about how much you know about the products or how many people you have on your team. It's about building relationships and letting people know you. And that's how it happens. So I wanted to end just by putting up my website right here, epic-storytelling.com. And that is my cell phone number. I'd love to work with any of you if you're interested. And I will bring it back to Robin now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Well, Jeannie, you got me inspired. Um, those prompts are amazing. It makes me actually want to write. So, someone asked if the slides would be available in a PDF because they couldn't take notes fast enough. And someone says, Tammy said, I feel like I should have paid something to be here. You know,
Oh, that's great.
it was actually really, really wonderful and such a gift because you nailed it. We're in the relationship business and stories. What you said it just helped me understand. Being vulnerable and transparent and connecting is what people want more than anything. And
Yeah.
then sharing it through the stories that they can relate to, that where people can connect. I've had that kind of pain. I know what that's like,
Mhm.
and now I'm on the other side of it, and this is what I did. But it felt hopeless for a while there, and so really well what we have. As I tell people every day, I get to wake up and hear miracle stories, and
Yeah.
our business is about stories, and so your gift to all of us is quite profound. And I invite everyone to
Mhm.
practice sharing your story. I love the way you said vignettes because it doesn't have to be long and involved. Some people give too much story, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. And especially in today's times, you do want to keep it short if you're just sharing through email campaigns or, a short video. You want to leave them with that nugget of wisdom, whatever it is from the story. But if you get too bogged down in too many sort of subplots, you will lose people's attention. So that is an important point. Yeah, thanks for emphasizing that.
There's the things we could do wrong and too much. When I get emails or text messages from people, I think we all are guilty of this somehow. So, staying to the point, but, tapping into the emotion is where people move from. If it's
Absolutely.
bland and dry, there's no inspiration to act. But if people can feel with you, then there's an opportunity to take action. So let's see if anyone had
Absolutely.
any questions. We've completed our 30 minutes, but Jeannie did agree to stay on for a few minutes more
Mhm.
to answer questions. And can you make those slides available?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I will send them to you, Robin, right
Okay,
after this, and then you
great.
can post them wherever you'd
I
like.
will, and I'll put them in the YouTube channel next to the talk, so people have access to them because they really. I mean, I took so many notes, and you absolutely inspired me. So that's what is such a gift, such a gift.
Thank you.
So Barbara Jennings is asking, how long is short? How long for a video to grab attention and get them to click a lead magnet?
It depends on where you're showing the video, I would say. First of all, like if you're doing an Instagram, I would try to keep it definitely under a minute. Generally speaking, I'd say anything over two, and you're going to lose people unless you have already told them. If you prefaced it by saying, this is going to be a long form video. I'm going to tell you all about this with a lot of stories related to this. That's different. Then you're going to have people sit back, get some popcorn, and they're going to be ready for it, right? But generally speaking, you want to keep it around a minute. That's really kind of minute and a half is about the.
Oh my gosh, thank you for that. And in our business, that's really important. So we like to give a little structure, what it was like before, what were your limitations? What was going on with you? Symptoms only, remember? And then, what you did by using whichever passage, and now what you can do. Because I'll never forget, in another company I was with, this woman said, I wasn't able to get on the ground and play with my grandchildren, and now I can.
Oh yeah. See, oh, that's
It's
so
like,
powerful, right?
ugh.
Just it gives you chills just to hear that, right? And then if you have the details of that story, right, about how she might have struggled to get down there before and couldn't quite do it, or like, the look on her granddaughter's face when she couldn't get down there and the look when she could, like those are the details that then really bring it to a much more powerful level.
And simple, but
That's
it just stirs up the emotions that people can relate to. And that was so beautiful how you kept weaving that in, the connection, the relationship, the the interest of your audience. Who is your audience, and getting to know what's important to them? It's one of the things that people forget in our business is connecting by asking questions. Find out, what do they want more of in their health? And I love to ask people, if they're in my age bracket, are you experiencing any of the signs or symptoms of the aging process?
Well, of course, right? Yes, we all do. That's
and
another
then
universal quality.
and then they laugh. Okay, here's another question from
Yeah.
Jennifer. How do you tell about a negative experience that includes people and is a major part of your story and not dishonor the person, but it was very impactful, such as a divorce?
You do that through talking about your own emotions and not bad
Beautiful.
talking the other person, right? I
Beautiful.
mean, we're all responsible. I mean, we all sort of co-own what's happened to us, right? I mean, sometimes we don't want to admit that to ourselves, but whatever emotions you were going through, just talk about yourself. You don't have to say, oh, he was, such a jerk, or he did this to me or did that, or, he ruined our lives. Just talk about what you went through, talk about your suffering in an authentic way, and then talk about how you overcame that. How you rose from that challenge and reinvented yourself into a more compassionate person, or a stronger mother, or a leader in the community. Whatever that is, that's how you tell those stories. Because and even if you haven't gotten to the point yet where you have found the lesson in life from it, oh, I'm sorry, you can still talk about those feelings and say, this is a new chapter in my life. And that's why I joined LifeWave, because I'm embarking on a new phase of my life, and this company is really a wonderful fit because it's about healing myself and it's about healing others. You can always bring it back to those universal qualities.
And what you said is so powerful. It's sharing your own personal emotions and feelings, not someone else, not pointing the finger and not judging anyone. This is about what you're going through. So, I'm concerned about time because I because my computer is plugged in, but it shows 1% and I don't want to get cut off. So I want to make sure that everyone knows Jeanne is available to help you craft, crafting a bio on LinkedIn can be one of the most powerful things you can do to attract people. We've had amazing results from LinkedIn and on Facebook. Every time you change your LinkedIn bio, everyone gets notified. And so, I hired Jeanne to help me with mine, and I haven't put it on there yet. I need to move it over, but I'll tell you, it makes a huge difference in presenting yourself professionally. And, you can hire Jeanne to help you do a video story,
Mhm.
because your story in LifeWave can make you millions, and it doesn't have to be a profound dramatic story, but something like Jeanne says that relates to other people is what we're looking for, those universal connections. So any final words, Jeanne?
No, I think we covered it. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here and to be able to share this. And thank you all for coming. It's really been a pleasure.
This will make a big difference for a lot of people. So my invitation to everyone is to practice. To start using videos on your Facebook page, on the Live Younger Facebook page, on the Vibrant Living Facebook page. Share your stories. Use the content.
Oh, I think we might have lost her. Um, Not sure if she's coming back, but maybe I'll close it off myself here if I can, if I have the ability to. I just want to say thank you all for coming. I will share that PowerPoint, and I am available to help you if you'd like. It's epic-storytelling.com, epic-storytelling.com, and my number 619-890-5995. Okay, bye-bye.